African Affairs Analyst Victor Okhai joins me for more on this. He joins me virtually. Good to have you join us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure you heard the last part where we mentioned that he only attended one campaign rally in all of this. But whilst it's funny, we're beginning to see pre-results, turmoil in Cameroon as Issa Chiroma has continued to claim victory. I just want to ask what your assessment of the situation is.
Okay, so I think it is important for us to understand what the situation is. Having been in power for this long, there are certain people who are beneficiaries of his stay in power, people who have been entrenched all these years. And the truth is, they're the ones that are prompting him. He doesn't need to do any campaign. They're the ones who will campaign because his ouster from office will pose an existential threat to all their political structure and all that. So it is in their interest to prop him up for as long as possible. He's just there as a symbolic head, but the truth is that there are people who must remain in power because of him. And that's what we're finding out right now. And it is because of people like that he can be there for as long as he lives. So they are the ones that will do all the campaign. He doesn't need to go out and campaign. They're the ones that will perpetuate him in power by every means necessary. So what you find, particularly in many African countries, when you see put leaders in a manner of speaking, is that these people are there because there are people who must remain in power, and that's just what it is. And they'll do anything to keep people like that in power.
And let me just also get your reaction to the statement coming from the Constitutional Council. It received 8 petitions filed by opposition parties, civil society organizations, and then other election stakeholders. And they are seeking either complete or partial annulment of the election. And they are alleging irregularities as well. But the Constitutional Council has dismissed those petitions, saying that results will be announced on Monday. Just not even looking at them at all. I want to get to your thought on that too.
Yeah, obviously, like I said, if there is a change today, they will all lose their seats. All these offices, including the judges, were appointed by the incumbent, and so it is what you see is a situation where how would you are not even looking at the merit of the case. It tells you already that these people have already made up their minds. They want the status quo to remain, and that's what it is. The only thing that could have removed Bob Deere from office is pressure from powerful international sources. But of course, he's there representing their interests, and so they don't want to rock the boat. He's a faithful, in a manner of speaking, servant leader for them, not for the people necessarily. And so, both within and without, they're not. It's the ordinary Cameroonians that are complaining, but it's not enough. The people who would have scared him into, leaving office are not complaining. The French are not complaining. The world powers don't seem interested. And so what we see is what we get.
And whilst I agree with you on international pressure, but I'm also wary of, asking the international community to do a job for us. I'm wondering if we saw enough push and effort by the opposition to come together and get him out of office. We had about more than 30 or 17 candidates in this election, and some of them dropped out eventually. But one would have thought that, like what we saw in Senegal, that brought in Diomaye Faye, that we'll see the repetition of same thing in Cameroon, where the opposition comes together.
Okay, so who is the opposition? Chiroma Bakere was a part of this administration until not very long ago. He is not himself a young man. He's about 76 years old. We can't be comparing him with what happened in Senegal, where you would talk about real change, galvanized by young people who are out there. He's a part of the system himself. Just that, okay, he has looked at his age and he's tired of waiting, so he decided to go into the opposition. And so it's same, not much difference really. And the opposition itself is weakened further because the structure is entrenched, and everyone that is benefiting from the structure is not interested in a change. And that's why it has remained the way it is. It's just a matter of people perpetuating themselves, not even the incumbent. The incumbent is just a symbol because if he shifts, everything shifts. If he moves, there will be total change from top to bottom. And so that's what they're preventing. They don't want that to happen. And that's why the situation is the way it is. So if you want change from within, the country itself is not exactly united right now because you have the Francophones and the Anglophones. On the one hand, you have the war that is going on from the Anglophone side, they're just seeking for self-determination. You have the battle with Boko Haram. So if it were one united country as such, then you would have everyone speaking with one voice.
And Mr. Okhai, how much of that, because you touched on a very important point, even during the election, we saw that, there were complaints about election not holding in some parts of the Anglophone region. And I'm wondering how much of that played a role here, that division. And, again, will it exacerbate that division as well?
Well, right now, what you will find is a situation is I told you type situation, because those who are seeking self-determination, obviously, all they care about right now, the ambassadors, or what are they called, all they care about right now is just how they can, if they can, have their own country. They don't really care about what happens to Cameroon as a country, So you might find a bit of apathy on their side, but so however it goes, they already know that the election results are predictable, so it doesn't make any difference to them.
It's the Ambazonians, but I wanted to ask generally for the region. Right now, we know that Central Africa has seen a wave of instability, whether it's the coup in Chad and Gabon, the war in Democratic Republic of Congo. And I'm wondering what will the political instability in Cameroon mean for that region as well?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there will be a sustained insurgents or uprising as a result of the election, because the people are not as united as they should be, which suits the government. If they were all speaking with one voice, Anglophone, Francophone, and they were all united in getting him out, then you might say there might be, it might be a bit uneasy for the administration. But I don't see it escalating. As soon as the results are declared, yes, you might see a bit of uprising, but they'll be clamped down and it cannot be sustained. Of course, they already have enough problem at hand. There's Boko Haram, there's Ambazonians. Well, what will the third factor be? Would it be that Chiroma? Because what Chiroma is doing is like what happened during the Abacha regime here, where Abiola declared himself a leader. I mean, yes, he may have been rightly voted, but declaring yourself a winner outside of constitutional constitutional authorities like the courts and the election body would amount to treason in a sense,
And interesting you mentioned that, because I was going to talk to you about that. If you foresee any sort of consequence for him, whether or not he feels that he's within his right to do that, it is against the Constitution, and he's been doing that since October the 14th thereabout. I'm just wondering whether you think there'll be consequences for him.
Well, it will depend. I think even as he moves, he'll be looking behind to see how much troop he can galvanize. If he has enough support, he will push, and it means government will have to push back. But if he doesn't have enough, the government might just ignore him, and everything will peter out.
We'll continue to follow the development there, but just before I let you go, we also share a border. Nigeria shares a border with Cameroon. Should we be concerned? We have that insurgency situation there as well that affect both countries. Again, we know that insurgents take advantage of situation like this. Should Nigeria be concerned?
If there's any problem, it will be in Yaoundé. Yaoundé is not close to us, so I don't think we have anything to worry about immediately. I know the immediate border where the problems are. The Ambazonians are closer to us, but that's not where the problem is for this particular election.
Thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure to have you on. I'm sure you know that. Thank you, African Affairs Analyst Victor Okhai.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, that's World Now today. We'll have more stories for you. We're monitoring developments across the world, especially with the latest sanctions on Russia, elections here in Africa, and there's also an election waiting to hold in Hungary. We'll bring you updates on all of this tomorrow on World Now. Thank you for watching. I am Precious Amayo.